Hi, I'm James Lamont, fellow at the Bedeen Center for Rural Economic Development at the University of Minnesota Crookston. Today, we're going to talk about the election of Donald Trump and his key agricultural policies that are likely to occur based on campaign promises and/or the last administration. So, what we anticipate over the next 4 years is a strengthening of USDA rural development programs that can come in the form of economic development, broadband, a number of things. We'll also see likely a reduction in support for biofuels and renewable energy that historically have been boosting rural economies. As I mentioned earlier, you'll see a strengthening as well as a reduction in some areas. So there'll probably be a net average, but we'll see what happens, whether it's neutral, positive, or negative. From a supply chain perspective, we'll likely see improved funding for logistics and processing capacity. This will help with probably some of the anticipated tariffs and then the counter tariffs. And then regulatory reforms. I suspect that we'll see a pretty sizable reduction in terms of EPA and other regulatory requirements that are currently in place.
Please.
There will also likely be some program cuts within the broader agricultural community that we should anticipate. There has been a proposed 30% reduction in the SNAP program. This could have negative impacts on rural food insecurity. We're also seeing, some farmer support programs that might see some reductions, again, based on what's been embedded in some of the campaign documentation. But like I said, some of the other areas may see augmentation in funding. The EPA will see likely the most drastic cut within the USDA slash agencies that impact agriculture portfolio. There may be, as a result of some of these cuts, reduction in support services, whether it's through extension, rural infrastructure, research, and then, as I mentioned, the reduction in SNAP benefits could also create additional uncertainties and vulnerabilities for some of the rural poor. With respect to legislative and policy directions, negotiations with Congress will naturally be very critical to balancing those proposed cuts and their impact on rural America. I do suspect that we'll see more rural broadband expansion. That's been a very bipartisan and popular program. Workforce development, given that there's likely going to be some challenges or exacerbated challenges to the nation's workforce supply due to new immigration policies and/or a reduction of numbers of folks coming to work here. We'll likely see workforce development programs domestically more effectively funded. Then lastly, I suspect farming groups will be much more active in the space to try to preserve many of the programs that have worked historically for rural communities. So thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time.